Hey, this is Sasha, and thanks for joining me here for another training video lesson. And today what I want to do is share with you a cheap or a very cost-effective method to hiring someone to do your ebook. So if you're looking to get an ebook cover designed, then I want to share with you a few different resources to where you can get your ebook cover designed and how to go about that if you have no design experience at all. So if you're just starting, if you have very limited cash and you're looking to just have a simple ebook cover design, then I want to share with you a few different resources to getting that complete and moving your project forward. Now, if you want to do it yourself and you have some basic photo editing programs like Photoshop, GIMP, or another photo-based program where you can manipulate images, I want to share with you how to actually design this exact ebook right there, which won't take that long. This is just one I designed from scratch. The elements are very simple, so we'll get into that towards the end. And I just want to share with you a quick little tutorial about how to do it all on your own if you really just don't have a lot of money to spend, or if you're just getting started in this and you want to see how to do it yourself personally. And that really creates a lot of flexibility, because the time it takes to create this ebook actually is about the same time that it takes to finding someone, interviewing someone, and giving out directions once you know how to do some basic design work. Now, we won't get into the specifics of Photoshop in this video lesson. It's really going to be more about putting things together and the elements together. So I won't be going that slow within the Photoshop lesson here, because we will be using Photoshop. But as far as going through it, as far as finding someone else to do your ebook cover and find someone on the different resources, I will go into that in a little more detail. So that way you can see, if you have no design experience, you can see some of the resources where you can go ahead and hire someone to take care of the task or project for you. So in either case, let's get started and let's take a look at some of these things here on the elements. But first, what I want to do is give you a breakdown about learning and understanding the balance between the quality versus the cost of getting your ebook project complete. So the first thing I'd like to take a look at is really balancing between the quality that you get versus the cost. Okay, so if we look at this diagram right here, and we just draw a little diagram where this spectrum or this line is really the cost that you pay. So the more that you go, the more that you pay. Let's just say this is $1,000 or $5,000. It just continues to keep going, or even $7,000. So the cost continues to increase. And then over here is the quality. So you have to remember that the higher the quality that you get, the more you typically will pay. It's not always the case, but in general, this is how it works out. But the way I look at the way this graph works is really, as you continue to increase in cost, you get a better quality up to a certain amount. Because when you're doing an ebook cover, or when you're doing something that's an art form, the quality has a maximum potential. And that is simply because your emotions are just extremely, extremely happy, or you're extremely satisfied. You can't get beyond that. This isn't like where we're manufacturing light bulbs or toothpaste, where you can just output 10,000 tubes of toothpaste or 500,000 tubes of toothpaste. You can increase the quantity of it, and therefore also your quality control is good, and so on. So it's not like we're doing quantity versus the cost. We're doing quality versus the cost. So it can only get so good because we're talking about human emotions. So you can pay for a very expensive ebook cover, but the quality is only going to be that much better. So your ideal situation or range really is somewhere over here, where you're paying somewhat of some costs and some premium, but you're also getting some fairly good quality, near the upper range of the quality. So if we peek out somewhere over here, it's almost at that mid-range or upper range. So even if you went somewhere over here, you want to be somewhere in that range. If you're all the way over here, you're just paying more for very little margin of return. And that's ultimately what you want to be careful of when you're getting an ebook cover, especially if you're just getting started. Sometimes you might want to spend a little less, but your quality might diminish. Now, this is not always the case. Sometimes you can get things lower cost and higher quality, but on a relative basis, this is kind of what you're looking for. Now keep in mind, this is not value, right? So the quality is not value, because when you're talking about value, the curve might look a little bit different. Because if you're looking for value that someone gives you versus the cost of that ebook, so here, as we look at things, this might be a little bit different. So if we have cost here and value on this side, okay, this might actually look, maybe like this. Or in fact, it might actually look something like that, where the cost starts to not increase as much, but you get more value. For example, you're able to reach the person that's designing your ebook cover in a lot easier way. And that way, if you need to make a change to that ebook cover, that's very quickly, then that's additional value that you just can't really, buy as easily. And sometimes the cost on that is minimal. It's a marginal difference because the cost doesn't go up as much. So value versus cost, the more that you pay, typically the more value that you get. But if we're talking about, the quality versus the cost, your end result and product, you have to remember that sometimes you can pay a lot more, but the quality in the end isn't going to be that much better. So these are some things to consider here as we start looking on screen and looking through some of these services and options. So the way that we're going to do this is we're going to break it down in tiers. The first website here that I have right now, this is Fiverr.com, and then we're going to go to a deeper website, which is a little more expensive. And then we'll go to the next level, which is probably the more or most expensive. So I'll show you a few different ways that you can hire someone to do your ebook or ebook cover. And then you can choose. And then I'll show you an example of how to do it on your own fairly quickly as well. So the first one is basically Fiverr. And the way that this works, this website basically allows regular people or individuals who want to make some extra money on the side. For some people, it's their full-time job. And what they do is they basically post saying, I will do this for you for $5, $10, $15, whatever their rate is. So that's what they ultimately do, is they post a gig that they're willing to do for a certain amount of dollars. Typically it's $5 to $10, and sometimes with additional services it can increase. So here, if you start looking for things, and I've searched for ebook cover, as you start looking through things and going through this, you'll see, and you roll over here, that some of these people, they've done a lot of ebook covers. So if you click through and you go through this, you can see this person has sold 21,000, it's got 21,000 reviews. So as you get into this, you can see their gigs right here. So I will design an eye-catching ebook cover. So as you look at the portfolio right here, and again, I'm not recommending this person because I don't know, I haven't worked with them, but you can see the different ebook covers that they've done. There's a lot of different variations here to these ebook covers. So you get some samples and ideas and insights to, okay, well, this is the ebook covers, and just look at the variations. And you can see there's also some packages here where for $10 you get a basic package, $20 there's a standard where you get a 2D cover and source file and a 3D model as well. So there's different levels, of course, of packages that you could go with. But there's a lot of these different people on here on Fiverr. So if you go to another person right here, so if you click through on this gig, I will design 2 ebook covers in 24 hours. So take a look right here. There's all these different ebook covers for Kindle, CreateSpace, 2 designs. You have, just all kinds of different ebook covers. And, basically take your pick, on the style that you like. So you can see this is a cost-effective route. Here, a basic package is basically $5. You will get 2 ebook covers and plus a 3D model. For $25, you'll get a spine and back cover design as well. So you can see it's not just $5 or $10. Sometimes it's a little bit more, but you get the concept. Regarding what they do, and then there's also a description of what they're able to do for you and some feedback. So that's the kind of the first version. This is often the cheapest variation that you can have towards getting an ebook cover design. Now, depending on what cheap or low cost means to you, if you want to go a little bit more higher tier, you could go to a website like this one is called Upwork.com, or there's also Freelancer.com. So these two, the way that they work and operate is basically, you have a project that you post that you need done, and then people or other designers will bid on your project and submit proposals. So it's like getting bids like on eBay for the work that you need done. And they'll let you know what they're willing to do it for, depending on your project terms and what you're looking to get done. And then you can go ahead and browse through people's portfolio and select a person, and then you work with that one person one-on-one to get your book to completion. Now you can of course hire 2 or 3 people if you like, and then you get 2 or 3 variations, but it's going to cost you a little bit more. And everybody has a different per hourly rate. So if I search for ebook cover and you go through this website, you can see that some people are $30 an hour, $27 an hour, $20 an hour. And if you click through, you can typically see their portfolio. So for you to do, let's say, one ebook cover could be 3 or 4 hours. So you have to take that into account, that it's a little bit different in the way that it works, is that you're hiring someone specifically, and then you're looking through their portfolio to see what is it that they can do and if they fulfill your requirements. So that's ultimately what you're doing with these types of websites. And you're going through and looking for professionals and seeing what is it that they do, their skill sets, and their hourly rate. If you click through, you can see, okay, here's their overview, ebook designer, ebook layout, format, 2D, 3D, check your 3D covers, there's the feedback, and then you can see some of the designs that they do. So again, you have to kind of match up also, is that type of the work that you want, or is that the type of quality that you want? That one was a little more internal formatting, but maybe let's just see another person. Let's see if we can find one here. Let's keep going to the next page and see if we can find one. Here's a freelance book designer and ebook conversion specialist. So here's some of their portfolio and cover designs. You have to download it. Let's just take a quick peek. So as you open this up, you can see there's some covers and some designs, of course. So in either case, you have to basically find someone to match up with the style that you want. Of course, they will submit their bids, but what you're doing is you're looking for someone that matches up with your style and what you're looking to complete, and see if they fulfill your job requirements. Okay, so that's the Upwork and the freelancer.com website. So these are kind of in that mid-range tier. The upper range tier, as you go to the next level higher, this is probably the more or most expensive level. This is called crowdsourcing design. This is 99 designs. And the way that this works is you post a project, and now you have people that actually work on your designs, let's say 20 people, 40 people, 50 people, and they're all submitting projects to you with already completed designs. Now this is a little more expensive because you have all these people working for you, and then eventually you select that person and money is awarded towards the winner of that design, the design that you choose in the end. Sometimes this can be a good thing, other times this may be a bad thing, because you in a way could get stuck into, okay, I like this design, I like this design, and you're getting pulled into 2 different directions, and then you have to pick, and then maybe a week or 2 later you say, maybe I like the other design. So it's kind of a weird dynamic, because you're not working with any one specific designer individually, you're working with a handful of people, but it tends to work out really well if you want a lot of variations and versions to your design. So if you take a look at the website here, you can see the how it works page, which basically it says build a design brief, what you're looking for, pick a design package, and you can take a look at the pricing. You launch a contest, so all these people bid on your designs, and then you get and receive these designs, and then you start giving feedback, what you like, can you add a comb into the final logo, and then you finally pick your favorite. So anyways, that's basically how it works. But if you look at the packages, you can see some pricings, and it's a lot more expensive, as you can see, compared to Freelancer or Fiverr. So this is already $300, $500, $800, or $1,300. But you can expect many more variations to design. So it's like 60 premium designs, 90 designs. This is great if you have a really premium project and you want a lot of variations. This might be a good way to do it. But otherwise, it's going to be the more more expensive approach. Now, let me see if I can find a few variations to these ebooks or some previous services that were already done. So if we go to, let's say, book cover, let's see if they're going to just show me this. Okay, so there's some variations, multiple designs. Let's take a look and see about this, if there's previous designs that are available. So let's just take a look. Okay, so I went to design contests right here on the bottom. Okay, so if you go to the bottom of the earlier pages, it's design contests. And now what you can do is sort by books and magazines. So now if you click, let's say these are completed designs, and you go to this book cover, what you can see is right here, here's the main final design. There were 26 entries, 14 designers, 1 final winner. And you can see there's some variations that you'll get. Obviously, the more expensive your contest, the better the designers that are going to apply or create designs. Sometimes, you have to remember the other side of this is that you'll also have other people that are, if it's a cheaper contest, they might just do one real quick to see where your interest is. Because when you're a designer, you're trying to figure things out to what other people are interested in. And, everybody has different tastes and interests. So if you take a look at this design, this was an $800 project, and you can see how well this turned out. Really clean cut design. Face picture there, a title, a spine, and you can see some of the variations there. They look fairly good, fairly clean design. So that looks real nice. And then if you look at this design right here, podcast guest profits, simple, clean cut design, has the title, subtitle, the name, and a little picture. Very simple. You can see some other variations here and versions, and it looks pretty good, as far as some of the design variations that you get. And of course, you'll get more if you're creating a contest. Those are just some of the finals that they show for promotion purposes. So if you take a look at all these different variations, it's there's a lot of them, and the way that they work is going to be different depending on the client's requirements. So if we take again a look at this one, let's just see some variations. You can see here has a little texture, a little splatter effect, back page, or the back, the spine, and the front. Here's some other variations as well. So what I want to do now is share with you how to create a very simple design, for a book. If you want to do it yourself based on Photoshop, we're going to do more of an ebook based cover, but we'll make it simple. We'll make it simple to where you can really follow along to the point of, okay, show you, it really only takes about 15 to 20 minutes at most. And in fact, to make it really simple, there's really a couple of elements. If you take a look at any book page or any book design, you really have a couple of elements. So looking at this final book, you have the title, you have a subtitle, you have a name, and a picture in the back. That's really what it comes down to. You can see the font, the typography is something to think about because there's different types. So here you have a curvature to one font, and then you have another font that's a little bit more blocky. So there's really a couple of elements. The rest is just putting together the elements and making sure they work well. But if you're looking for something simple just to get yourself started, I want to share with you how to make something very, very simple, to where you can use it in one of your first, second, or third projects if you're just getting started. And this will help you get off the ground as far as creating a product and get yourself going. And then once you get going, you can hire this out and hire someone between some of the methods that we talked about. Or if you don't want to even deal with it, by all means, just use either Fiverr, Upwork, Freelancer, or some other website, or even 99 Designs. And I'll post a link to all of these right under this video as well. So if you're interested in taking a look at them, just use the links below. I'm not sure if any of them have affiliate links, but if they do, then they might be affiliate links. So in either case, let's just take a moment to create a simple ebook cover. I'm going to use Photoshop here for this example But for you, if you have a different software program, by all means, use that program like GIMP or something else. The concept in theory is still the same. It's all about just putting those elements together. And I'm just going to share with you how to drop a few elements together and really create an ebook cover from scratch. And you'll see that it really doesn't take that long. All right, so the first thing that we need to do is when you're in Photoshop, we're going to go ahead, go to File, New to create a new page or a new canvas, and the size of the ebooks is 2813 pixels by 4500 pixels. So that's kind of the standard that we're going to do. So now what I like to typically do is I like to normally go ahead and create some of the typography elements. So here what I normally want to do is, number one, first I'll pop in a title. So here I've come up with a basic title, the step-by-step guide to building wealth in your life. So that's the title we're going to use. I'm just going to play with now a little bit of the font size, and what I want to do is start looking at kind of positioning here shortly, but we'll get into that in just a moment. I want to put the name down here also, which would be the author name. So I'm just slowly positioning some of the things within this ebook cover. And then I also want maybe a subheadline as well. So a step-by-step guide to building wealth in your life. So in here it might say, learn how to properly get out of debt and build a... Okay, so here what I've written is learn how to properly get out of debt and build a life where you don't have to worry about money. Okay, not totally grammatically correct and so forth, but this just gives us a guideline to what we're creating a sample book. Okay, so let me just change this case sensitivity. So here I have the case sensitivity that's lowercase letters as well, a little bit different there on the font sizings. So it just kind of gives us a position place. Okay, so I just have some basic positioning right now set up. The colors, everything else we're going to change here shortly. The next thing I need to do is pick an image and pop it in. So I'm going to take a moment to find a picture from one of my green screen shoots, and we'll just pop it in here somewhere. All right, so not exactly proper, but we're going to just use this picture right here simply because I think it'll fit okay for what we're trying to do here. So now what I need to do is remove the background. So I'm just going to select a few of these little green spots right here, and I'll go ahead, select and inverse, and then we'll create a mask right there. And then I'll also get rid of these background areas as well on the side here, just from a quick little photo shoot. That way I'm not having any copyright problems with anybody's pictures or images. So there we go. So now I have that photo in place, and what I can do is manipulate it and modify it any way that I want. So now what we need to do is just kind of rearrange some of these elements right here and position them properly. So I want to take this this picture right here and just put it under all the other layers. Okay, so this kind of is going to give us a little background that we'll use here shortly. So that's kind of a starting point right there. I could position it a little bit like that. So now what we need to do is just play with the typography. We'll play with the positioning of things. So I'm going to take that top title that we've created, the step-by-step guide right here. And what I want to do is I'm going to create a new folder. I'm going to put that in there. And what I want to do, that's our title. What I'd like to do is split it up so that way I can play with some of the fonts. So I'll just duplicate that title a few times. I'm going to move one of it over and another one over. So now I can split some of the text elements apart. So here we go, step-by-step guide, and then we'll take this next part to building wealth, and then we'll get rid of this part, and then we'll do for this third one, in your life. So now we have 3 separate elements, and now what I can do is take this step-by-step guide. I can make it a little bit smaller for this if I want. Then to building wealth, I can go, actually I'll put the 2, step-by-step guide 2 over here. And then because I want to make the building wealth a little bit larger, so we'll make this bigger right there. Of course, I could just increase the font size, but I'm stretching things here a little bit. So what I can do is maybe go to 280 on the font. So there we go. And then the final piece is in your life. So now again, if you want, you can stretch it right here and then remove it right there. I could reduce it depending on which elements you want more prominent. So I could go something like that. And now we have kind of a title that's together. So I can bring it down a little bit. And now what we can do is decorate a little bit more of the book and titles here in a little bit. I'd like to put some elements around these areas. So here's how I'm going to do that. I'm going to go ahead, put another layer above that spot. I'm going to take this, do a little diagonal effect right here. Again, just something very simple. And I'll go ahead and fill that with a color. So right now I'm using kind of an orange color, but we can go ahead and go right click, blending options. And then I will change that to a color overlay of potentially something that's maybe a green color, since we're talking about, you know, wealth over here. So I can go ahead and choose something like a green color over here. You can make it more green, less green, just really depends on what color green you're looking for. And then the next thing that I can do is change these titles, go to blending options. That's why I put it in a folder. We'll go ahead and make this maybe more white right there, okay? If I'd like to have some sort of additional, let's just say a stroke or element, I've duplicated this one layer right here. And then I can change the color of it to, let's just say something a little bit more yellower or offset that tone a bit. So it'll be very subtle, but you'll be able to see it here. So you can see it right there. Very simple little design and elements that you can see slowly starting to shape up right there. The next thing that I want to do is go ahead, create a new layer. Again, background layer. We're going to put that under the picture. And now what I can do is create, again, let's just say, okay, we're going to do another little light blending. We'll use that same green, and maybe we'll do a little bit of a softer green, okay? So what I can do is go ahead and fill that with that color. So you can see it's a little bit different. And now I want to reduce that transparency. So we can make it very, very minor. Okay, so you can see how that slowly just gives it little, very subtle texture, little subtle effect right there. The next thing that I want to do is, again, look at these elements here at the bottom. Okay, so I'll put a few little things here at the bottom. That'll be above the picture. So I could do the same thing. I could put this name, and I can make this a little bit of a darker color. Okay, so I could go black for that, and I can even make it slightly transparent, or I can make it a full black. Okay, the name on that will use the same green, so that way it matches on the colors as that green, and we'll see how that comes out. So you can see that looks pretty good. I typically like a little bit of space on the bottom and the top. As you can see, I've left that there just for some breathing room and printing room. Of course, you could move this up a little bit if you like, but in either case, I like a tad bit of space there just in case for printing things or versions like that. Just gives it a little bit of a cushion on the edges. And then the same thing here, learn how to properly get out of debt. You know, our subheading, again, doing the same kind of concept, same type of elements. We'll create, again, another layer, and then we'll just use this polygon tool right here. We'll do kind of similar to what we did here at the top, because the top is slanting this way, so we'll make it slant also the same way to kind of go with the flow. and we'll go ahead right there. And this one, again, I could use now the lighter version of that we used, of the color, or the darker version. Again, it's up to you, just very simple. You'll see how this really starts to play together here very shortly. So right here, see if we move it right there, okay? And let's just see how this will come out. We'll move this down. Okay, I might make it a little bit smaller. We don't need it that big. Okay, maybe on 2 lines. Bring it down just a little bit, because this is our sub headline. We'll go back to that layer, just move it right there. Maybe we'll change the angle just slightly. Okay, so I'm just, again, playing with the little bit of elements right there. You could do it this way, but for some reason, if the 2 angles look a little lopsided, then in that case, I would much rather just make it perfectly straight than lopsided. So what I'll do is I'll just take this rectangle tool and I'll just trim this off the top right there. And of course, we need to change the color. So I'll go ahead, blending options again, color overlay, and I could make this one black right there just to do a variety rather than white. And that kind of gives it a little bit of a better look right there. So you can see right there, it's coming along fairly well. If I want to do the same thing to this element as I did up there, I could add a little bit of a line like that, but I don't really want to do that. I'm going to move this picture up a little bit just to kind of give it some, more dimension. And now what I can do is start playing a little bit with some textures. You could use a brush, and I'm going to show you that even with a simple brush, a simple scatter brush texture here, here's what you can do on these elements. So again, we'll make a layer above some of these layers. Let me just see how this will come out. So here you have a brush. I'm changing the color right here to white, and you can see I've made it a little bit, you have like these kinds of textures on these brushes. Some of them are good, some of them are going to be blurry as you scale larger. So what you could do is just use something like a simple brush, and put a little bit kind of an effect like in a corner, and then another corner, and maybe another corner. And now what you do is just reduce them in the opacity. And that slowly gives it a little bit of a dimension, just a little glow. So you can see a little slight difference there. Very, very minimal, very, very subtle. And now, since this part right here on the left looks a little bit empty, I don't like having too much clutter in my books, but just the way that this one was designed, with the title and so forth, because we could, change the building wealth to on multiple lines. We could go and do building wealth kind of on each individual line. So why don't we do that? Try to space it a little bit better. So I'm using the same concept that we used earlier. So I'll go ahead, change that to wealth. I'll go ahead and remove the wealth on that line. And now what I'm going to do is take this and go to about 380, let's see, and then we'll start scaling this. I'm holding the Shift key and the Alt key right here as I scale, so you can see how much bigger that is now. And then wealth as well, we can do the same kind of concept. So now it's very, very prominent. As you can see, this really makes things a lot bigger. So sometimes you may or may not want to do this. And now I'll go ahead and move this up and move the in your life right here. Let's just now tweak this just a little bit, make sure our elements are looking good, alignment. If you need rulers, you can drag the rulers over there. So, from one side, as you apply these things, you can take a ruler and just, see how that alignment is coming in. So if we just line everything up to the ruler right there, it makes things a little bit better, or more precise. It's just a way to do it. So now I have this part, and now what I need to do is actually bring some of these down. Okay, so I'll bring this down a little bit. Okay, and then I'm going to take this and stretch just that top part, okay, because I want to fill it with that top part, make it a little more green. And since it is still a little bit big, I can reduce this whole thing since it's a grouped folder layer just a bit, and now move it right up there. If you want to add some, you know, stroke, drop shadow, you could go ahead and go to the blending styles, and, you know, if I add like a little outer glow and do something like a normal right here and go into maybe a darker green, sometimes that adds a little bit of texture, which now you can see how that really starts to stand out or pop a little bit more. So you can see it really starts to bring out that title quite a bit. So this is another thing that you could do. I'm going to leave that there. And then one final element that I want to add in, again, just since that looks a little bit empty, I'll just pop in an image here of a $100 bill. And I'm just going to take one of these images. Again, it's a little cheesy or corny, but that's a $100 bill, but it has an effect on it. So I'll drag it down on my layers. And you can see just playing with these covers right here, rotating it, you know, and you can see this one's still above those layers. So I'll keep dragging it down until it's under those layers right there. And I could put it behind me as well. So it just depends which element you want in front, which one you want in back, you know, and now I can duplicate this layer. I can rotate it. Okay. And now you have two of them. I can take two of these and duplicate those two and now rotate those two. So now I have four of them. So you can see that now you're really coming together on a cover, and you have basically an ebook cover that's complete. Can you add a few little textures and things like that in the background? Absolutely. You know, you could take a little image, just like this image right here that we just took with a $100 bill. Watch what happens. Since it has some kind of texture, I'm going to show you what you can do. I'm going to put that above this layer here in the background behind it. Right now you can see it's not looking very good simply because it's too much of a distraction, just like we did a little bit with the gradient earlier. But now if you reduce this, well, first we can go luminosity, so you can see it's green on the layer style, and I'll just drag this and make it just very, very subtle, very, very subtle, because it has that little bit of texture. It's kind of like subliminal, a subliminal texture behind it. Again, you might not really be able to see it unless you zoom in, but you can kind of now get an idea of what it does on a very subtle texture base and so on. And that's ultimately what you're doing with those things. I'll bump it up just a little so that way you can see it here from further away, but that's our base cover, you know, for our book. If you'd like to get a little extra attention from it, I'll make a new layer, Control A for select all, edit, stroke, and now I'm going to stroke, let's just say 15 pixels on the inside with white. You know, now you can see it's a little bit of, has that white border right there. If you wanted it a little bit more, of course you could do maybe, let's say 30 pixels, okay? And now you can see it's got a little bit more pizzazz to it. So there's our basic cover complete. It didn't really take that long, as you can see. You can still, since you have all these elements, play with it. The concept is the same. I basically start with my layout of my text elements. The goal is the text elements first, because that's the key in a book. And then you start positioning things, rearranging them to what your heart desires. And you know, of course, there's additional things that you can do. But it's simple, into the point of, you have your text elements, you have your author, maybe a subheadline or a subtitle if you have that. And then you just put in a few little elements. And that's really it. Because if you make it too complicated and there's a lot going on, people are not going to understand what the book is about. If you make it too distracting, like we did, you know, with that $100 bill in the background, let's just see where that is. it's right here. If this was fully, 100% as big as, fully not opacity or no transparency there, you can see how you can't really read anything because there's just too many words. But once you start bringing some of those things in and some of those elements, you can see doing little subtle things right there really creates something fantastic. So in either case, I hope this was really helpful because you can see how you can really build out your own ebook cover in a really simple fashion if you just think about things in subtle little elements. All right, so thanks for joining me in this lesson. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see more training videos like this one or some other business training videos, take a look at this thumbnail right here or this video right here, and you'll just continue watching from other training videos that I have about business education or growing your online business and things of that nature. And if you're interested in getting on the newsletter list where I release some private content and just send out some specials and alerts about my private trainings, then get on the newsletter list by clicking the click here button over on the right side. Thanks again, and in the end, remember, do what you love, contribute to other people, but most importantly, live life abundantly. I'll see you next time.